Welcome. Thank you all for joining us today for the rededication of the city's council chambers. I'm Maggie Dar. I'm the assistant to the city manager here in the city of Janesville. Before we get started, I just want to recognize some special guests that are in attendance helping us celebrate this today. First, if I could ask any current or former city council members that are in attendance to please stand. There's a good bunch of them. Let's give them a hand. And also, I know we have at least one state rep here, or state senator, excuse me, Senator Ringhand here today. If there's any legislators or their staff members in attendance, thank you very much for being here. So on this date 50 years ago, August 3rd, 1968, this building, the city's municipal building, which is now called City Hall, was dedicated. Today, we have a modernized city council chambers following a 5-month-long renovation project. This spring, with our City Council's approval, we began a much-needed renovation in City Hall, including installing a new roof and then renovating the 4th floor. So that included building dedicated space for the City Council to meet with their constituents, new ceilings in our break room, which were very needed, better use of the space in the City Manager's office, and of course, modernizing this room, the City's council chambers. Before this project, our council chambers had not been renovated since it was built in 1968. It had the original technology and layout installed 50 years ago. Today, we have an updated look with better acoustics. We have better transparency with the glass doors and panels to the back of the room and TV monitors outside of the room so people that are in the hallway can watch meetings live. We have new VoteCast technology, which you can't see, but it's going to allow our council and our committees to be more efficient and integrated with other technology that we use to stream and record our meetings. And we have new state-of-the-art audio and visuals and new equipment for filming our meetings. We even have, you don't see this, but we even have loops under the carpet that allow people with hearing aids to better pick up the audio in this room. So a lot of new things going on. I just want to take a moment to recognize several individuals and businesses that were critical to the success of this project. We had several contractors that worked really hard for the last 5 months on this project. Our general contractor was McGill. In particular, the project manager, Steve Knutson, and the job superintendent, Mike Hill. And their whole team was really great to work with. They were hardworking, they were very pleasant, but they had questionable taste in music that we listened to for the last few weeks. Our audio-visual contractor for this project was AVI. Our architect was Dorschner and Associates. And then you can see all around City Hall, in particular this floor, we have new signage that's ADA compliant, and that was provided by J&B Signs. So if any of these contractors I just listed are here today, can you please stand? We'll give you a hand. And we also had a lot of city staff people working on this project. I'm sure they're very glad that this project is almost complete. Public Works Director Paul Woodard, our city engineer Mike Payne, the project engineer Fred Hookham, from our operations division, Matt Goslin, Jeremiah Brooks, Mark Francis, Mark Toberman, and Steve Fisher. From our IT office, the whole team, Gordy LaChance, Brad Papke, Brad Huber, Crystal Brown, Hai Chen Dong, Paul Seafelt, and Matt Schroeder. JATV, most of them are back in the corner there at their new console. Alan Luckett and all of his staff were critical to this project. Carrie Salis from the city manager's office did a great job getting a lot of work done and keeping all of us calm. And then today helped out with this ceremony a lot, Londa Rush from our building division. So any of these staff members in attendance today, if you could please stand, we'll give you a hand. So this project was on an extremely aggressive timeline and had many moving pieces, and these individuals did a phenomenal job keeping the project on schedule and looking nice. In fact, there were contractors here just this morning finishing up some last-minute touches. And finally, there's just a few partners we'd like to recognize. First of all, you can see it towards the back of the room. There, on both sides of the wall, there's different displays of art. The Senior Activity Center has artwork rotating quarterly on display here. They have a really nice Janesville theme going on. And then also the school district of Janesville on the other side of the wall, they also will have rotating artwork every quarter. And currently, the art that's on display is middle school students here in Janesville. So if anyone's here that's a partner in that project, if you could stand, we'll give you a hand. Thank you for your partnership. So again, thank you for being here. At this time, I'm going to turn the podium over to our Council President, Doug Markline, to say a few words. Council President Markline, he has served on the council since 2013. He's currently in his third year serving as council president, so he just can't get enough. So, Council President Markline.
Thank you, everyone. I got a couple things to say, but first I'm going to read something here that I found in the back of the room. And it says, "I am most grateful that the occasion has arisen which permits me to address a few comments to the people of our community, Janesville. We who are administrators and who have the grave responsibility of conducting the affairs of a multi-million-dollar municipal enterprise are often beset and confronted with major problems, as well as by those numerous and inevitable lesser issues that results in man's endeavor to improve his lot. We attempt to solve these problems and meet these issues as best we can, always trying to adhere to the basic theme, what solution is in the best interest of the city. Usually there are dissenters and those who protest our actions, and this is as it should be. Dissenters often reveal the facets of issues that have been ignored or have not been exposed and thus make valuable contributions to municipal policy. The history of recent events leading to the ultimate construction of our municipal building is somewhat of a demonstration of this pattern. These events followed the usual discussions of need, how, where, when, what cost, and this was anticipated. The suggested answers to those questions were in some instances not 100% acceptable upon initial presentation. The consolidation of these ideas resulted in plans and procedures whereby the building has become a reality. City employees are very grateful that the citizens of Janesville, through their elected representatives, made the construction of our municipal building possible. In spite of spiraling tax rates, the people realized that an acute problem had to be solved and that considerable expenditure would be required to effect this solution. Those of us who are city employees are justly proud of what has been accomplished. I now wish to take this opportunity to thank the members of the City Council, various city employees, and the many citizens who were directly instrumental in the planning, financing, and construction of our new edifice. I also give special thanks to all the people in our community for their contributions to this valuable link in the chain of Janesville's progress. This was written in 1968 by City Manager Carl Samek on the dedication of this building. And I think most of us would say those words ring very true today, 50 years later. 77 council members served at the old dais since this building was built. I'm proud to be one of the 77. We have Dale Henning, who will speak next, was one of the first that served in this building. Very forward-thinking building. It could be built today and look appropriate. It was modern at the time in a city that prides itself now on looking back at historical restorations. On a personal note, I don't remember ever going to the old City Hall. I was 12 when this was built, and I would come with my father, mainly to the third floor to get building permits. Rarely did we come up to the fourth floor. When we did, it was not a pleasant time. My dad and my uncle did not always agree with most decisions made at the old dais. As soon as I was old enough to take on a little bit more responsibility, I was the errand boy that brought the plans and the permits to the city and dealt with city staff. It was that experience of dealing with city staff that got me interested in serving the community. I started in the late 1990s on the zoning board, sitting right here, and got to sit behind this dais for the first time. It was pretty low tech. Cigarette burns on the countertops and wore out. And that was about 1999, so 20 years later, it didn't get much better. But I always remembered how it felt to be on the other side of the dais, to be standing at this podium facing that wall. It was a little bit like the Wizard of Oz, and we pay no attention to the men behind the dais. But I remembered how it was to be on this side, and so I'm really pleased with how this room turned out. I like that we kept the podium right here so that you can face the council and also not turn your back on the community when you're speaking your thoughts. I also like it that the island now has a council president in the middle with equal numbers of council members on both sides, and we can actually see each other. Any council member in the past would remember if you were down here, the council president couldn't always see you or even hear you in my situation. No more looking sideways to the screen or seeing about half of the screen at a bad angle. I like the fact that we're open to the community, nothing behind closed doors that you couldn't see in and locked out of this room. I think that was a great thing. And I also like the screens visible to all and the updated JPAC equipment. I think this is going to serve us for a long time, and I'm very proud to be here for this. And finally, I'd like to thank the fire department for sharing their facilities during the construction. Like I said, I was 12 when this building was built, and 50 years later, I'm looking a little worse for the wear, but this building is looking really nice. Thank you very much.
Now, when we decided to hold this ceremony on August 3rd, exactly 50 years from the opening of City Hall, we thought it would be wonderful to hear from someone who was involved when this building was dedicated back in 1968. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dale Henning. He served on the City Council from 1964 through 1969, and Mr. Henning was actually council president in 1967 when City Hall actually opened its doors prior to the official dedication in 1968. Mr. Henning?
Thank you, Maggie. I'm looking around. Where's the scoreboard now? That used to be up here. I didn't see it anywhere. Anyway, before I do give any of my remarks, my wife was here 50 years ago, and she never got introduced. None of the wives did at the. So Doris, would you stand up? We've been married 61 years, and believe me, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. When Maggie called me for the dedication, she actually had wanted Neil Snyder because he was the president at the time, so she was left with me, and so this is what you got. Because, unfortunately, there's only two of us left. At the dedication on August 3rd, 68, we placed a capsule down on the northwest corner. It's still there. I don't know if somebody will probably hit it with a truck someday and empty it out, but there's some very valuable things in there. But and all those people that have their names on that plaque down there put something in that capsule. And Maggie also asked me to comment on my time in the council, which was, as she said, between 64 and 70. There were busy times in Janesville. The population was exploding, especially at the school level. And at that time, we didn't have a unified school district, so the council was responsible for all the bonding and approving of the school budget. So we had some very tough meetings back then because we had a lot of building to do. Along with the municipal building, I'm trying to think of all the things we built. One of them was Parker High School. That was not an inexpensive thing. We built 3 or 4 grade schools. I don't remember how many it was. It was 3 or 4, and in fact, it got so often we were going to just expense those. We built a middle school. We built the new library, and most expensive was a new sewage treatment facility down the river. Also, at that time, we put together the land for Rockport Park and the Janesville Outdoor Lab. So we had a lot of busy sessions in the 6 years that I was on the council. I want to talk about the old City Hall just for a minute. The council chamber was on the second floor of the building. It was a building that was used for about everything. Patriotic Society used it. I think We had a municipal court at one time that was up there, and we had those old desks up there and folding chairs. And we didn't have the electronics that you have today. So poor Harlan Bradford, who was a city clerk at the time, had to call a roll call vote every time we had a vote. Also, as they were building this building behind the old city hall, the council should have got hazardous duty pay because no one knew it, but there was a major crack in the city hall. And so the contractor wrapped it with big cables so it wouldn't fall apart. So, and of course, with a hazardous duty pay, when you're getting nothing to start with, 0 times 0 is 0, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, and to add to all of our other things we were doing, Joe Lustig, the city manager, retired early in '67, and we had an additional job of finding a new city manager. And Carl Samick became acting city manager and then was appointed to the permanent position of city manager in September of '67. The council started using the new chambers on July 10th, 1967, even though they weren't complete. But the old building out in front was being demolished. The first formal meeting, Maggie indicated, was held on July 10th. And at that meeting, we had Carl Samick, who was the acting city manager, Harlan Bradford, the city clerk, and Ted Bidwell was our city attorney. On the council, we had John Hall, Marv Roth, Ed Grummick, O.D. Miller, Lee Bell, and Neil Schneider, and I was president of the council at that time. I remember the meeting because it turned out to be a very long meeting, and President Markland will appreciate this. The major item on the agenda was building permit fees. And it took forever to get that thing resolved. And I think the final vote was 6-1 to approve the new fees. And the one vote was because the one no vote was because that councilman wanted them higher. All right, one of my first official duties after I was elected president, this has nothing to do with City Hall, but I think it relates to the city of Janesville, was to present the keys to the city to James Roach, who was the chairman of General Motors. He was here to signify the 100 millionth GM vehicle being built. It's kind of ironic because now you drive down Delavan Drive and all you see is a pile of rubble. And I thank everybody for letting me speak today, especially Maggie for calling me. And I personally want to thank the council and all future councils, the very best, along with city employees, to build a strong future for the city of Janesville. But before I leave today, I have one presentation to make, and I'd like to call the city manager up here, Mark Freitag. He doesn't know anything about this. This is the key to the old city manager's office from the old building. That was used by Henry Traxler, Warren Hyde, George Forrester, and Joe Lustig. And I can't find a place to fit it. You have to hang it in your office.
Thank you, sir.
The reason I had that, we had no meeting room, so that's the one we used to hire a city manager in.
Thank you, Mr. Henning, and I will note that I did call him second, but he assured me he would be much better than Neil Schneider, so I think he delivered. So thank you all for coming and celebrating this success with us today. We're looking forward to using this newly renovated meeting space and serve the community with this space for many years to come. Just to plug, I'll also note that 5 years from now, in 2023, we will be celebrating 100 years of having a council manager form of government. Janesville was the first community in Wisconsin to adopt the council manager form of government. At that time, it was a very progressive move, and maybe this is the local governor coming out of me, but when council manager government was rising in popularity at that time in response to inefficiency, corruption, and especially unprofessionalism that sometimes comes with the mayor-council form of government. So we're very proud of this long history of council manager government here in Janesville. That'll be a significant event in our history. So now we're going to cut the ribbon in front of the new council dais. If I could ask anyone who was involved with this project to come forward. And then after the ribbon cutting, if you want to stick around, check out the memorabilia table at the back that was put together by Carrie Salis. We also have a slideshow of a lot of Janesville things going on in 1968 that was put together by Molly Nolte and several staff members at Hedberg Public Library. And then also join us in the break room for cake and refreshments. And thank you again for coming. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to say, don't eat in this new council chambers, please. So thanks again for joining us today, and yeah, have a great weekend.